motivation. So, you know, majority of our properties probably aren't going to be massively affected. The first time buyer piece for us was always, you know, auction is not always suitable for first time buyers, depending on their funding position. We've opened the market up with conditional sales to give people longer time to get lending in place. But the reality of it is a first time buyer would have had up to £300,000 exemption on stamp duty. So obviously now it's up to 500. I think it's going to be more beneficial for first time buyers in the south of England, where the average prices are much higher. And typically what the average house price now is 248,000, something with a broad brush. So, you know, it's bound to be encouraging for an owner occupier to increase their motivation. I'm not so sure it will massively impact on vendors' expectations. I think vendors' expectations probably, you know, that's about the advice they get. Most of them think, we all think our houses are worth more than they are. And until we're really desperate to sell them, you know, till we suddenly get uber motivated, we will always think that our kitchen's nicer and the driveway's nicer and that, you know, my avocado bathroom is nicer than somebody else's. But so I think it will, hopefully, I think it will be a wonderful boost for the estate agency community as well, to feel more confident about the marketplace, because that's what's going to drive it. So I think, and that in its natural form will spirit people on to look at motivated buyers and think there's another way to sell. So I think by default, we'll all do well out of it in an auctions perspective as well. And from an investment point of view, of course, if you're going to save up to £15,000, you know, it's always a good idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the stat that I saw today was 750,000 kind of jobs depend on the property market being in a buoyant state, and obviously there's a lot of associated services. Rachel, what do you think for your business? How's today's announcement going to help you?
Oh, yeah. Hello. Sorry, I had another app open with my camera on.
No problem at all. Good to see you.
We do quite a lot of business in an area where there are a lot of people who are over 60, and really they're sitting in the family homes and they need to be downsizing. And what we hear a lot from people of that age group is, well, the stamp duty is, you know, we just feel we're being penalised because we're going to have to pay stamp duty on the property that we buy. Now, someone who's buying that property is actually going to be spending that money out of their own pocket because they can't get it on mortgage. And we try to explain that to them, that this shouldn't be a barrier because they're selling it from the asset.
Yeah.
But this, I think, is a perception. I mean, I look at this from a numbers point of view and I think, well, it's okay. But for someone who is older and they're looking at a finite amount of money and they're looking to downsize, I think this probably will remove that barrier. So ideally, we've got people who are in properties that are 350,000, where someone's now going to pay nothing and save themselves 6,250 to buy it. And that person is going to be able to move down to something which is about 190 and pay no stamp duty. So happy days all round, really. So I think it might move that log jam of people downsizing.
Fantastic, brilliant. And Stephen, when you speak to agents and to other people within the industry,
you know,
what's your take on how
properties probably really? So
I can hear some echo going on there. Stephen, what do you think is going to happen? What do you be advising people that you deal with on a regular basis with regards to what's happened today?
I mean, all the agents I'm talking to, this is nationwide, are absolutely crazy at the moment. It's mad. There's so much pent up demand. It's incredible. So I'm going to be the dampener on this. So I think it's fantastic. But my concern is what I did as soon as I heard the announcement was I started speaking to some mortgage brokers and trying to find out what's happening on the lending side. And I was told that at the moment there's 95% loan to value deals out there. So, you know, they've gone. I've been told that 90%, there's only 3 or 4 lenders at the moment lending on that. And then I got a text about 5 minutes later to say one of those was pulling that at 5 o'clock. But there are loads at 85% loan to value. So what it does do, at least it's going to help people, you know, maybe find that extra money which will get their loan to value down, which is obviously a good thing. But there's loads of pent up demand. There's a lot of people out there that wants to buy at the moment. I know a lot of people, sadly, have lost loved ones. There's other people that have realised that sitting in lockdown, their house is either too small or too big. They hate their partner. They want to get divorced, and they want to move. And a lot of people have realised that actually they want some outside space now.
I'd add to that, Stephen, that there's quite a few people I've talked to who are not going to send their children back to school. So if you're planning to home educate your children and work from home, you're going to need a little bit more space. I've been home educating my children while running my business for 15 years, and it can be done, trust me. But you do need to. A lot of people will be
trying to find out how you did that.
Yeah, well, what you do is as soon as the phone rings, they know they have to turn the TV down.
You've got them well trained.
Yeah, well, since they were little, but I think it's that kind of family change. People need different kind of space, and
we do a lot of rentals. Half my business is rentals, half sales, but the amount of inquiries that are coming from people who want to make that change, as Rachel just said, for those fundamental reasons, they can't be locked in the room together with their other half when they're both working from home, which seems to be, a very, very common theme for why we are getting people interacting with us as estate agents. And as Stephen said, the pent-up demand, where we're situated, we're right across from the hub of HS2. So genuinely, it's unprecedented the amount of inquiries we are trying to deal with in an area of a fairly low value. Average value in here is 240,000. Wow. So it's pretty frantic.
And do you suspect, and is that more kind of the demand side, or is that the supply side, or do you think this is going to equalise it a little bit after today?
I think there'll be a flurry of activity off the back of this, because some people will say, well, I can make that slightly larger move now, it'll all generate chains. And as Rachel said, people downsizing at a time, because we're now going to be engaging with some of our clients who have been thinking about moving. Actually, this is a great time to be thinking about selling, because you're going to get more buyers looking at the higher value end. And I think all of us, most of us, most of the agents I've been speaking to, the one area that has done well out of the last few months is higher value properties, as people decide that they want to make that move to something that is a little bit more, got a bit more outdoor space, got a little bit more room. So it's done quite well.
Yeah, and do you find, or does anybody find that the outcome of COVID has meant that people are able to move further away from cities? Obviously, you're Birmingham based. I think you're down to Southampton, Rachel. Have you found that people are starting to just kind of look that extra 5, 10, 15 miles out?
Not so much. I think more people in Southampton are going to move into the city, because Southampton are making great moves to make it more difficult to bring your car into the city.
Okay.
And this is something that's happening in parallel. We have a main road into Southampton, which is usually 4 lanes. It's now only 2.
Right.
So people are looking to move closer into town, to walk more and to be able to cycle to work. And if you only need to make 1 journey or 2 journeys into work a week, and spend your other time working at home, maybe the move into the city is a good thing. So there's pushes and pulls in both directions, I think.
I think from one of the things that we have such a broad spectrum of properties nationally. So I don't have perhaps expertise in any certain geography other than my own local community that I know. But I think what seems to be happening is that people have more choice. When I think about what we're doing with our own workforce, and our own people and community, it's about giving them choice. So actually the fact that they've got greater choice now, and that can only be a good thing, because it does mean that, you suddenly, when you're thinking about location, it's not always about that commute, because that commute might now be 2 days a week as opposed to 5 days a week. And you know what? You can do anything for 2 days a week. And I do think that that's the point. People will suddenly go, you know what, in the nicest way, you think, I would have never have considered a job in London or, anything like that ever in my life, with 3 children and a community school down the road. I mean, it wouldn't been. And actually, I think career choices and everything about, we've been separated from our families. There are going to be lots of people who want to be connected more to their families, you know. I want my mum to have a little annex next door to me now. That's nothing I'd like more, you know. So I'd have to move to make that happen. And I think that's the point of now. The generational shift of how we buy properties will change, because I think we've had some fear of loss of that connectivity. And I think from a work perspective, we've got different sets of choices. And that's the point, you know, would it have possibly never have been a deal breaker whether you had a separate study before for somebody who was buying, you know, anything between sort of, you know, from a £30,000 property up to a £250,000 property, and that's the large majority of people who own properties in that band. That suddenly having a separate study is really important.
Really important.
And again, it's just, I think there's a whole world of choice. I think, Stephen, your point's really important about the lending market in support of everything that government's doing. I have some blind faith, I don't know where it comes from, that actually that they will have to drive the lenders to offer more flexible products than they currently are. And yes, there are loans about, but they fill their trenches up of loan. You know, they'll think, right, okay, I'm going to spend X amount loaning out at that rate, and as soon as I've got the many loans, I'm going to move away. And I think that the FCA need to make sure that people are offering loans at a lower LTV to people, so it doesn't become that's the thing that blocks the market.
Sure.
Because we've gone too far that way now. It's, you know, I'm not suggesting we should ever have the interest only world of 100% mortgages that we have, but we need to make it accessible, don't we?
Sorry, I was just going to ask Stephen about that kind of the LTV side of things. Obviously, you're kind of contacting the mortgage side. Why is it that they are not lending right now?
Well, I think what happened in 2008. You know, and with Northern Rock, and you know, they're right to be concerned. You know, lending got out of hand. I mean, look, the thing of the moment with rates are the cheapest they've ever been. I mean, there are some phenomenal deals out there. I'm not a mortgage broker, but actually,
you know, anybody advice. Sorry.
Yeah, none at all. But actually, when you talk about, you know, our job of an estate agent is to get the highest net price for the vendor for their biggest tax-free assets, you know, and as an agent, they should be skilled negotiator to get that vendor as much money as possible. And if you work out actually how much it costs, you know, for you to buy, you know, to spend an extra £5,000 on the property over 25 years, it may come to £1.50 a week, you know, which actually isn't a lot of money, you know. So I know we're going on to another question, but, you know, that's a great way. You want your agent to be a skilled negotiator, to get every last single penny for your biggest tax-free asset. But I think, you know, people were rightly concerned as to what happened with Northern Rock. You know, but
that's thinking back 10, 12 years and just thinking that sort of thing could happen again. And that's because of COVID, right? Is that because of COVID? So essentially, they're worried about what 6 months down the road looks like, whether anybody's going to have jobs, etc.
Well, 100%. You know, nobody knows what's, you know, and I know the Chancellor's given loads of stuff, you know, which is 6 months today, you know, for, you know, my son's just left university. So for people to, you know, 21-year-olds, you know, just graduated, to get work is going to be incredibly challenging. You know, there's going to be people out there, and I know again that there's you can get £1,000 bonus if you keep your people for 6 months. You know, because there is a worry. You know, you look, where was it? I think I read in the last couple of days, 12,000 people have lost their jobs. So you know, you can understand all the concern that there is out there for people, and rightly so. You know, so at the moment, you know, it's fine. There's all this pent up demand. Interest rates are great. But actually, what's going to happen in 3 to 6 months' time? Am I gonna have a job?
It is very different, though. I think when you look at what happened in in the financial crisis that we experienced, you know, around that time, the whole process of responsible lending is so much better. So I don't think there will be the same sort of impact on the financial markets. You know, that they do have to unlock some of that lending, but it's about risk in that space. It's always about risk, and so that's why they'll always focus on the LTV of the lender's point of view, is can I claw back some money at some point? And at the moment, we know that they're not able to get into any repossessions or anything like that currently until after the 31st of October. So, you know, that's probably another trigger that comes to us early in 21, because there will be some people who were in that potential repossession place that won't have that happen to them until later on this year. But I do think that that's the point, is that this isn't about people, I don't want to just blindly talk positively about the financial markets, but they are in much better shape and much better regulated. So I do think it's about, you know, gentle pressure that says let's keep things moving, because and like I said, it's not always about money, it's also about timing and choices for people too. So you will sacrifice one for the other, and somebody moving house might go, you know what, I really want to get this happening now, and I don't want to wait 6 months down the road. And I could, you know, that's why we find people moving in an auction world, because it's a timing issue, perhaps not always a cost issue.
Rachel.
So we only know what houses are selling for now. We only know what we're agreeing now. And I had someone call the other day, and she says, well, I'm thinking of moving at Christmas, and my first question is why? Tell me more. What's going on with your life? What's happening? Because the valuation, any figure that anyone picks right now could be nonsense. In 6 months' time, we don't know. I think, just to add to your point about the crash, I think what happened in the crash was the government went to extraordinary lengths, and very, very few people lost their homes.
We've also got to remember that it's only about a third of the population of homeowners that actually have a mortgage. We're a very, you know, there's a lot of people that own properties that don't have a mortgage. So those people can take advantage of the situation of the very low interest rates and the fact that, you know, there's properties to be had at the moment. So I think that the market will be moving.
You think it will stimulate second purchase as well, like for landlords? Have you got any landlords that are thinking of buying another? I spoke to an accountant and she says she will.
So my background, I was a financial advisor for 20 years, mortgage advisor for 16 of those. Since lockdown, I've spoken to 3 different surveyors. One was pessimistic, one was optimistic, and the other one said, well, as long as I've got my job, what do you think is going to happen with house prices? So I said, I think the reality where we are, it's pretty good. And he went, oh, good, that's all right, that's comforting to hear. So we've had a couple of surveyors who've put in their reports that there could be a downturn, so they're already using terminology in their reports that I've seen, which isn't great, I'll be honest, because he's got a crystal ball. But I think, you know, all of the things that we've all reflected on, Steve and Rachel and Louise, we've all, you know, got levels of experience. My own personal view is I think it's too early to say, but I think on the balance of things, as Louise has said, this is different to what it was in 2008. And that, you know, my mortgage background tells me the same, because I'm speaking to the mortgage brokers who work with me. And although there is a restriction on lending, I think it's okay that there's a cautious approach, but that's no bad thing. I think that as we carry on forward, as long as the economy remains stable and employment is underpinned, then I don't see there being any real issue. What we don't want to do is get carried away, and house prices starting to get too carried away, because that's where I would see a problem occurring. But as long as employment is, and they have to say what's been announced today is very positive. So
don't mind. Brilliant. Jane, wanted to pass it back over to you. I think you've got some questions about sort of the customer service side. So, but quite aside from what actually happened today, I think we were looking at how people are dealing with the new world, right?
Yeah, I think that obviously there is a lot of worry about whether people are going to go back to work. Firstly, whether their jobs are going to be available to them. So I'm guessing that's to do with the, you know, the £1,000 incentive to keep people, get them back off furlough. but also, you know, do people want to, you know, are people wanting to go back to full-time jobs? Are they wanting to go back and sit in the office all day? They want to stay with their friends. So I think that that's quite interesting of how, you know, how that's going to be seen. Is that going to turn our business into more rentals, or, you know, are people going to think, well, okay, you know, we free up some money and go into rental accommodation? Or I'd be just curious to find out what your sort of thoughts are on how we're going to be navigating the next 2 or 3 months, really.
The rental side is interesting, because while interest rates remain as low as they are, and as long as lenders are lending money, and as long as the bank of mum and dad are giving us this amount of money, and as Rachel said, the amount of properties that are owned outright by the elderly, or whoever mentioned that, there's lots of people who are still trying to get their families onto the property ladder. But the rental market is still extremely buoyant, because we're living in this marketplace which is demanding flexible workforce. I mean, the business parks near us, every time I drive past, there's a new building going up, which is a little bit surprising. My thoughts are the commercial sector may suffer somewhat. But, you know, I think the rentals market, there's still investors out there who are keen to buy. They see it as a good long-term thing. Rents are, in my area, are good. I know that there's a softening in other areas of the country. But, you know, across the board, I think rental demand, quality rentals will improve. It's the lower end of the market which may suffer as the legislation improves to make sure that we are giving quality homes out in the rental sector.
That's certainly happening with the student sector in Southampton. The landlords are being squeezed and pushed on all sides due to regulation, taxation, and we're seeing rental properties coming onto the open market being sold to families, and that's ultimately what the council want. They want families living in homes again. So releasing those into the market is proving tricky, and landlords are trying to sell them. And they're not always having luck, because they've got the wrong number in their head.
Yeah.
And it's a 3-bedroom family home, not a 5-bed home. So there's an adjustment there. And also the HMO licenses are not transferable. Yeah. And the council have set a limit that's lower than the existing stock. So it's pushing. That's good.
It's an interesting point you make, Ian, about the quality of rentals, because I think that might be a shift that we see, and obviously, you know, in our world in auctions, we see a lot of investor buyers, you know, and they're attracted by the yield and the sort of capital gain that they can make. But within SDL, we also have a separate part of the business called Wise Living, which is all built to rent. So the brand new homes and their whole program, and I know that's happening up and down the country. And we've seen a huge appetite for that. And I think we expected, you know, that to significantly slow down, even though we weren't able to, you know, show people around these new homes. And it, you know, the reservations were huge and far surpassed everybody's expectations. And I think that's a bit of a, you know, it's in a bit of an impact of going, maybe people are hedging their bets whether to buy or not. Maybe they can't quite afford to buy yet. And I think we just got to be careful that we don't, you know, incentivize one part of the market and disincentivize others. And one of the important things, you know, I think the things that we'd all like to see to unleash that sort of buy-to-let marketplace more would be some better tax breaks for landlord investors, because I think, you know, the regulation is there to protect tenants, and I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. But let's not penalise them too much, because currently, you know, you really have to have your wits about you and some great tax advice to be able to do that effectively. You know, and that's the rub. It's about how we, you know, and it's not about having one thing or the other. I think we get the balance right. Everybody, if you have an appetite to be, you know, a landlord investor that's more than an accidental landlord, then you know what, you should have a great opportunity to grow your portfolio and deliver great homes to people. So I'm all for regulating the fact that we don't have more slum landlords and bad HMOs out there, but at the same token, we need to make it easier for people to do it, and to grow, because it's not, like Jane, you said, it's not everybody's idea of the best thing in the world to own their own house, you know. Some people don't want that, you know.
And some people, it's their income.
Yeah.
You know, and they're having their livelihood taken away from them with all the legislation changes that's going on as well. And are you finding, just out of interest, virtual viewings is more on lettings? From what I'm hearing from agents up and down the country, is that a lot of properties being taken are being done by virtual viewings rather than physical viewings at the moment.
With no physical viewings afterwards. Interesting. What are you finding, guys?
We, I mean, our virtual viewings during the actual lockdown itself, we moved a lot of tenants in on the back of virtual viewings, but equally, you know, they had to have a reason for the move. It had to be key workers. But it's certainly playing a role in helping us, because obviously most agents are now being more vigilant in allowing who they allow to view. But the virtual viewings to me are just a good screening process to make sure that you're getting the levels of interest that you need. It's certainly not, we certainly wouldn't move people in unless they've physically seen the property first now. We don't feel we don't need to do that.
Did you get any particularly dodgy virtual viewing videos from self-deployed tenants at the time? Or were they all right?
Is this being filmed? Absolutely not, Matt.
Of course not. Yeah. Nobody's watching your mind. This is not
stories in last week.
Are you finding that agents in your areas are just going back to normal and just doing physical viewings and not paying any attention to the virtual viewing situation?
Yeah,
I've had that across everyone, and I just think, you know, you're putting people's health and safety at risk by doing that. And also, you'd have thought people would have learned that actually you can limit your time and effort and, you know, the amount of people that are traipsing through a property by at least doing a decent video first and just, you know, getting to know people and understanding it before you head on out and do physical viewings.
But there's always agents who will want to just tick the box. We've got some physical viewings. It makes the vendor think that there's some activity in the property. But
it's the wrong target.
Yeah, I mean,
we've got a YouTube channel, and we've got our properties walkthrough videos, which I literally make with this, room by room. They're edited. I slide in some stills. I've got front and end pages, and that's easy to share on social. And none of our competitors are doing the same.
Really?
One of I have an office in a very small town where there are only 2 other agents. Those 2 have not got a YouTube channel. They don't use their Facebook, and they haven't got any videos.
Some agents haven't gone back to work yet.
And it's, yeah, I spoke to the board man, and he said he's got a few offices where they haven't even opened again yet. And we are doing viewing, but by the time someone comes to view, they've done 80% of their decision. So when they walk in, they're the one, and we're having to educate sellers that this could be the buyer. We're not going to wait for another 7. Yeah. It's had 100 views on YouTube. This is the one that picked up the phone and wants to see it.
It is the ones who actually walk into the property and are with us that we know that they are genuine and that they are in a proceedable position. So using
we've got to be educating people, and obviously that's what we're hoping to do on here. We're hoping that landlords or tenants will see and understand that, you know, they've got to be educated into the new way of thinking, and that if they go and just turn up to a property viewing and there's 6 of them, the whole family's come, and someone just lets them in without any PPE or any, you know, that's not a good agent. I mean, I'm sure Steve, you know, you can tell us which are good agents and which aren't, but then landlords and vendors should be looking and saying, I don't want to deal with those agencies, because, you know, they're not doing what the guidelines are. I'm sure that if they saw tons of people all like sitting around in the park all chatting and, you know, hugging each other, loads of families, they'd be the first out there going, oh, you know, you shouldn't be doing this. But yet when they've got people coming around their house, they're quite happy for having, you know, tons of people through the door, because that makes them feel good that they've got people viewing their property. We've got to learn that isn't the way forward now. Yeah.
I think, Stephen, in your world, you know, I'm sure you've spent many years before now wanting to get agents to qualify their buyers better and do more, because that's the rub of this, is that, you know, it isn't a world that we should be tire kicking on viewings anymore. And I mean, we did sell a number of properties during lockdown where there were no viewings, as in physical viewing. It was all virtual viewings. and you know, we've also now doing Matterport viewing, so it's a much more you know, a broader experience of being in that property rather than some photographs. So you feel like you're walking through it, even if it is on the odd auction property, stepping over some holes you might have. But it's from a health and safety. Yeah.
But this is what's better for the customer. You know, the customer is the most important person, not the estate agent. You know, and the whole process should be made easier for the customer. And this is exactly, so we, like, the 3 weeks moved into a decade moved into 3 weeks of where agents should have been. And people didn't want to make use of all this technology that's been out there, but agents have never wanted to use it. So, you know, I've got one agent that actually at the moment has 90% of her market appraisals are virtual.
Right.
At the moment, and you know, and this lady is actually considering to, maybe she wants time away, but she can do it to say, right, I'm going to have 3 market appraisals today, and they're all going to be virtual. And she hasn't had anybody, or she's most probably had a handful of people say, no, we want a physical face-to-face. That's it. Whereas some people, I agree, they're not following any guidelines whatsoever. They turn up without the necessary equipment. They're people that are viewing, that they do bring all their family, and they're saying, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And it's crazy. And, you know, and how is that helping the customer? It's not, you know, and how is that helping the reputation of estate agents? You know, and we're all on here because we want to make a difference. You know, we want to raise the standards in the industry. Or whether it's estate agents and letting agents, we want to help consumers understand that actually we are dealing with their biggest tax-free asset. We should be their trusted advisors. You know, we should be educating that this is what needs to happen for us to get you your the best outcome. Or if you're a landlord, you know, we're here to maximize your investment, and this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it safely, and we're going to do it like this, and we're going to do it like that. But there are agents out there that sadly, it's wealth before health.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely what we're looking to do here. I think with agents here to help is to really help consumers to understand what great looks like, to understand what safe and secure looks like, and to make some great decisions about how they interact in the property market. Sorry, Rachel. Okay.
Well, no, sorry, I interrupted you. Well, the beauty of having things on YouTube is it is massively and easily shareable. So you don't need 6 people to view, because you send them all the link. I mean, what could be easier for an agent than to send a link to a video rather than show 6 people around the house? I've used Matterport twice, both on one on a new build property and one on a refurbishment, which was a really out of this world way to transform a bungalow with a 5-meter dormer across the back. And that was sometime last year that I first used the Matterport. And the bungalow we actually sold to a family who were going to be moving in with their mother. They didn't want to traipse their mum around because she wasn't very agile. And they were able to take the iPad to her house, show them the Matterport. She moved around it with her own fingers. When she came to view the property, finally she said, "Where are the sparkly doorknobs? I want to see the sparkly door." And it's the thing, they were able to say, "Look, Mum, we've seen this and we think you'll love it, and we think we could all live here." And they could show her without her going.
Gone are the days.
So easy and so effective. And now, you know, and now I think, yeah, it's not good when people.
Why didn't we do it before?
Revealing.
Yeah.
We're all turning into Steven Spielberg now, don't we, with our iPhone editor?
I mean, again, what's really interesting, this use of technology, and I think this is where agents can use it in a different way as well. So there's going to be a lot of people that when eventually kids go back to school, they're going to be worried, and actually they may be going to secondary schools for the first time. They may be going to nursery schools. What a great tool for estate agents to be rooted in their community, go to their schools and say, we'll come round and we'll do a Matterport tour for you on us. So we know that your kids, we know kids are going to be concerned about coming to school, coming back to school, or coming to their first school. We would do a Matterport tour so we can show you everywhere where you need to do. You know, for me, for kids are going to be a lot more relaxed. More importantly, the parents.
Great idea, Stephen. Great.
The parents will be relaxed as well, because they can see everything. Maybe there'll be social distancing with classing and whatever. You know, oh, I'm worried about going to the toilet. I'm worried about lunch. And you're part of a community. You're showing this and you're helping people. I mean, that for me is what estate agents should be doing, and they should be rooted in their community. And I've seen loads of exceptional stuff from estate agents. I mentioned one guy called Oliver James, and this is about all helping local businesses.
Yeah,
you know,
he's part of volunteer to help as well.
You know, and just really done one very simple thing. You know, let's support our local businesses. Which businesses can we help? Tag them in. Wow, you know, that's great, because you know we're all as you know, we're all in this together. We all need help. We all need support, and that's a fantastic agent. You know, doing something out there to help his community. Brilliant. You know, and helping all these local businesses, and that's what it should be about. You know, let's talk about the positive things. That there are some exceptional estate agents and letting agents out there that want to help their community, want to make a difference, and a lot of them do fantastic things.
Does that include sponsoring the local junior football team?
It depends what football team it is.
Just a local kids team.
Yes, is that what you're doing here?
Do your bit, don't you?
Yeah, good stuff.
Listen,
I think that's a great one to end on. Sadly, I think we're way over on our time, haven't we, Jane?
Time flies, doesn't it?
Exactly. I know, especially half an hour.
Just like listening away and chatting. I just want to say, just really quickly, I think, Louise, when you first started telling us about what you do at SDL, I think that the live didn't work. So can I just ask you just to quickly just talk about the auction situation again very quickly, just because I think a lot of people are really interested in what it is and what because I think everyone always thinks that an auction is just the old properties that are like, you know, need doing up, and from what I can see, that isn't the case now. So
yeah, I think that the piece to mention on auctions is it really is it, first off, and it's not mean not doing it a service, but it's not for everybody. You know, if you are sitting in the position that you've got time on your side and you know you want to, then you have to be a motivated vendor and need to move on. And the estate agent's job is to assess what that motivation is and to ask more questions, because you know it is vulnerable times for people, and sometimes people don't want to say that actually they're in financial difficulty or anything like that. It's not about the property, it's about the motivation of that individual wanting to move on. And it might not be because you're desperate or divorced or, you know, none of those, or somebody, God forbid, you know, we've been in this world where we're going to see more probate sales. You know, it's impacted on our older communities. And actually, if you want a quicker time scale, then it can be really suitable, and it won't be suitable for everybody. So if anybody, you know, goes out there into that auction market, I'm a huge advocate, and I know our whole business is around auctions with integrity. So if it's not right for you, then don't do it. The biggest risk for somebody, it is all about risk, because the idea is that we come at it differently than you would in private treaty, where you might, and then a estate agent might put a property on the market, you might take a lower offer, whereas we come from down below, we come up, you know, and so it's setting the reserve, but it won't ever sell for less than that reserve. And that's the point of going, if all of those things mean that you want to move quickly, have some assurity of that process, and most of the problems I think that happen for estate agents, the bit that I feel a huge empathy for them on is that those fall through rates that we see that impact all of us in all our businesses, it's not estate agents' fault. You know, it really isn't. There's so many other movable feasts that impact on why that sale falls through. And mostly it's not the estate agent. It might be somebody else down the chain, but it's mostly not them.
Or, you know,
Exactly. Do another session on that.
It really is trying to champion the fact that, you know, we've got some issues in the way the private treaty market works. So if somebody really needs a sale quickly, there is only one way you can do that with some guarantees, and that is through an auction process. But again, I caveat that with, it's not for everybody. It's not some silver bullet that's going to save this marketplace. It's just probably got more reach than it's had exposure to in recent years. That's all.
Brilliant. Great.
I think it's brilliant. I genuinely, I'm loving it. I do online auctions with one of my clients, and I've just seen it getting bigger and bigger and bigger over the years. And with the lockdown, turning everything onto the online, because they're traditional auctions normally, and then we've gone online and watching that excitement. You know, the last 5-10 minutes where suddenly everyone's just like, you know, in a frenzy to get something. And I think, and then it's done. You know, you're exchanging contracts, your deposits there. You know, all the paperwork's done up front. And you know, what a simple process, really. I genuinely think more people need to start having a look at that.
And more estate agents need to be having those conversations with their vendors at the market appraisal. And so that's what, you know, because it's about having choice, that there's, you know, you've got a goal, a house moving goal, or you know, an asset moving goal, and there's a few ways you can do it. You know?
I definitely see that as my role.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you get from here to there.
Yeah.
And doing something with the property is the way that we do that. But ultimately, you need to get from here to there. I'm just tidying up to get you there. And often I have recommended people to use auction a couple of times, and one did very successfully. And we've also had a chain where something was going a bit wonky, and that one we recommended auction, and that just eased the logjam, because it just meant that someone had cash and it could all move forward.
And like we already said, there's a lot of people that actually do have cash to buy. You know, we all think it's all about the mortgages, but actually, I think it's what 67% or something of people buy without a mortgage in the UK. So you know,
I'll dream of being able to buy.
I don't know where these people are, but clearly they're there.
When I grow up, I'm going to buy a house without a mortgage.
Oh, guys, no, it's been lovely having you on. I'm sorry about the bit.
Really has.
We all went a bit pear-shaped, but hopefully we made up for it. Please come back and see us again and chat again, because it's lovely to see how you're doing. And things are changing, aren't they? Every week it's something different.
Every day, it seems.
So yeah, great. Thank you.
Really great to have you on, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Lola. See you soon.